Hello, everybody. Welcome to Torah is for Everyone. Who knows the portion that we're going to talk about tonight?
Toledot.
Yes, Toldot. It's interesting that it says Toldot, which means history, but then it's not his history that we hear. It's it's the lineage. It's his future that we read about, and it's a lot of good meat in this portion. So let me share the screen so we can begin. Where are you? Here we go. And I just want to bring this other document up with my notes. This is not the right one. Here it is. Okay. So here we see, where are we? Okay, we're in Genesis 25. This is the Toldot, the story of Isaac, son of Abraham. Abraham begot Isaac. That's the only history we hear. He was 40 when he took to wife Rebecca, daughter of Bethuel. Last week, we read that of how the servant went and brought back Rebecca, and really in a miraculous way, from what I see. And he brought him back from where Isaac came from, where Abraham came from, where he had to leave. It was a land of pagan idolatry. So Rebecca, that's all she knew. But she was going to leave that as well now. She didn't have a calling. She left to get married. Now, Isaac pleaded with God, Yud He Vav He, on behalf of his wife because she was barren. And later we're going to see in a few verses down that she was barren for 20 years. So it's interesting that Isaac, even though he knew God, he never prayed for her. And here, finally, it says he pleaded with God, probably because she was driving him crazy. And she had all these gods of fertility, goddesses of fertility. She was probably saying to him, Isaac, go to your God, tell him about me. And then Yud He Vav He responded to this plea, and his wife Rebecca conceived. God is behind every good thing. There's so many women who can't conceive, but it never occurs to them to go to God. But the children struggled in her womb. And she said, oh, if so, how can I go on? How do I exist? So she went to inquire of Yud He Vav He, of the God of Abraham. I wonder how she did that, or because she didn't pray also to God for, to become pregnant. But here she went to him, and he answered her. 2 nations are in your womb. 2 separate peoples shall issue from your body. 1 people shall be mightier than the other, and the older shall serve the younger. Now, this is a prophecy that she receives, that these 2 peoples, one would be mightier. We think that's probably Esau. He was mightier. He was a hunter, a warrior, and the other Jacob. But in the end, I'm not so sure that that's how it ended up. It doesn't say who is who. It does say the older shall serve the younger. So the older one was Esau, who would serve Yaakov. But that hasn't happened yet. When her time to give birth was at hand, there were twins in her womb. The first one came out red, like a hairy mantle all over, so they named him Esau. Then his brother emerged, holding onto the heel of Esau, so they named him Yaakov, from the verb ekev, which means heel. Isaac was 60 when they were born. So he was 40 when he got married. He had waited 3 years. He was 37 when Sarah died. That was at the testing of the Akedah. So here was 3 years later. It took time for Abraham to send the servant, and to bring back his wife. When the boys grew up, Esau became a skillful hunter, a man of the outdoors, and Jacob was a mild man, raising stock. So it's interesting because raising livestock was like, he was like a shepherd. I don't know what kind of cattle they had, but later we'll see it says he was a man of the tents, which means he was like a shepherd. But King David was a shepherd, and he had to fight off all kinds of animals. So it wasn't an easy job either. But to his father, Isaac, he favored the older one. It says because he had a taste for game. He liked the venison, he liked the meat. But Rebekah favored Jacob. She was a strong woman, so she favored the one who was seemingly weaker. And Isaac was a mild-mannered man who was a mama's boy, so he favored the one, Esau, who was the mighty hunter. And that's probably why he would have chosen him. When he was asked later, but we'll talk about that after. Once when Jacob was cooking a stew, Esau came in from the open famished. And Esau said to Jacob, "Give me some of that red stuff to gulp down, for I'm famished. I'm going to die. I need some food," which is why he was named Edom, which means red. That's his nickname. And he became the father of the Edomites. And if you trace the history of the Edomites, they say today that that is the Christian world, European nations. Jacob said, "First, sell me your birthright." And Esau said, "I'm at the point of death, so what use is my birthright to me?" So we see God must have put in Jacob the understanding that he was going to be the one who would inherit the lineage, but why he would needed to do it this way, have him sell him the birthright, I don't know. This was at the beginning of their relationship with the Creator, with God. They didn't know at this point yet how God would be working in their life. That would slowly develop through time, as we'll read in the Torah. But people take things into their own hands. Sell me your birthright. And Esau didn't care. He was a hunter. He was interested in today, the pleasures of the day. He was not interested in his lineage. And that's also shows his heart. But Jacob says, "Swear to me first. Make an oath." So Esau swore to him and sold him his birthright. He didn't twist his arm. He didn't force him. He gave it up easily. Jacob then gave Esau bread and lentil stew, and he ate and he drank and he rose and he went away. You see, it meant nothing to him. Thus did Esau spurn his birthright. And that's important to remember, because later on, you're going to see that when he gets the blessing from his father, he's very upset. He said, he'll say that Jacob stole the birthright, but here it's very clear that he didn't do that. There was a famine in the land, aside from the previous famine that had occurred in the days of Abraham. We're going to see another repetition, another cycle repeated. Remember when Abraham and Sarah left and they went down to Egypt, and that during that famine that's being talked about here. Here, Isaac went to Abimelech, king of the Philistines in Gerar. It's exactly where Abraham went. And the Lord had appeared to him. "Do not go down to Egypt. Stay in the land which I point out to you." Isaac is the only one who never left the land. He stayed in it the whole time. Abraham came to the land, but he left. He went down to Egypt. And Jacob would leave to go to Haran, but Isaac never left. Live in this land, reside in this land, and I will be with you, and I will bless you, and I will assign all these lands to you and to your heirs, fulfilling the oath that I swore to your father Abraham. So here's the promise is going to, it's interesting. I was thinking about this today because, let's see, where did I write this down? Here it says, God made a covenant, a pact with Abraham that the land would be theirs. Now he would continue to fulfill this oath to Isaac. He didn't make a new oath. He didn't make a new covenant with him. He's just fulfilling the old. It reminds me very much of what Christians say is that in Jeremiah, where it says, I will make a new covenant with my people, not like the one I made, which they broke, but I will make a new covenant. And this is what they call the New Testament, but it has nothing to do with a new covenant. It's just renewing an oath with the next generation. It's the same oath. He's going to fulfill it. I will make your heirs as numerous as the stars of heaven. That's what he told Abraham. And assign to your heirs all these lands, so that all the nations of the earth shall bless themselves by your heirs, because Abraham obeyed me and kept my charge. The word for charge has more of an understanding of, it says here, Bekoli, he heard my voice. Here, Asher Shama Abraham Bekoli, because Abraham heard my voice. And Shmo, he guarded. And it's like, again, Mishmarti, he guarded the things that I had ordered him to do, which was to get up, leave his homeland, Haran, where the Arameans live, leave that country and go to the land where I will show you. And there he would give. And it's interesting because he says he kept these things, my commandments, my mitzvot, my chukim, my Torah. There was no Torah yet. And yet this is a prophecy that God would be giving us. God was going to create a nation. And this nation would have mitzvot, the first 3 commandments, the chukim, the middle 2 commandments, the mitzvot, the mishpatim, the last 5 commandments. This is almost like a foretelling of what was coming. But here, Abraham already had that in his heart. And he kept the commandments as much as he knew how in those days. So Isaac remained in Gerar. And when the local leaders asked him about his wife, he said, she is my sister, just like his father did. You see, generation after generation, we do the same things. It's amazing. I see that in my own family, how my kids do what I do. I do what my parents did. And we see this over and over in our lives. She is my sister because he was afraid to say my wife, thinking that the local leaders might kill me on account of Rebecca, for she is beautiful. When some time has passed, Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out the window and he saw Isaac fondling his wife Rebecca. So here we know that she didn't have her children here yet. But before it talked about Jacob and Esau. So that's here we can see it's not chronological. The scriptures are not chronological, because if they had had the children, the king would have known immediately that they were married. Abimelech sent for Isaac and said, so she is your wife. Why did you say she's my sister? Isaac said to him, because I thought I might lose my life on account of her. Same rules still applied as to Abraham. Abimelech said, what have you done to us? One of the men might have lain with your wife, and you would have brought guilt on us. So Abimelech warned, he charged, he ordered all the people, Anyone who molests this man or his wife, or in Hebrew, Ba'ish Hazeh, which is this man, U Ba'ishto, and his woman shall be put to death. Isaac sowed in the land, and the same thing happened to him that happened to his father, Abraham. Even right after he did the same thing, Isaac sowed in the land and reaped 100-fold that same year. God blessed him. And the man grew richer and richer until he was wealthy. He acquired flocks and herds and a large household so that the Philistines envied him. This is one of the reasons that we have so many enemies. This is a picture here. God blesses us, and those who are watching, who are on the outside, they see what we have, they become jealous, and they start to fight. And we see it happening even today. Today is getting worse and worse. The Philistines stopped up the wells which his father's servants had dug in the days of his father Abraham, filling them with earth. It's almost like they're cutting off their nose to spite their face. They could use these same wells for water, but in order to hurt Isaac, they're going to stop up the wells. Abimelech said to Isaac, "Go away from us, for you have become far too big for us." So Abraham left. So Isaac left there, and he encamped in the Wadi of Gerar, where he settled. That right now is southwest. It says here, I read Gerar means lodging place, and it's in the southwest, the southern part of Israel today. Where are we? So Isaac again dug wells, which had been dug in the days of his father Abraham, and which the Philistines had stopped up after Abraham's death. Imagine, these people are so ridiculous. And he gave them the same names that his father had given them. When Isaac's servants, digging in the wadi, found there a well of spring water, the herdsmen of Gerar quarreled with Isaac's herdsmen, saying, "The water is ours." So he named that well Esek because they contended with him. When they dug another well, they disputed over that one also. So he named it Sitna. He moved from there and dug yet another well. They did not quarrel over this one. So he called it Rehoboth, which is in Israel today, saying, "Now at last God has granted us ample space to increase in the land." And from there he went up to Beersheba. That night, Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh appeared to him and said, "I am the God of your father Abraham. Do not fear, for I am with you, and I will bless you and increase your offspring for the sake of my servant Abraham." I don't know how he felt or what he thought, but I'm telling you, if God appeared to me, I would be so in awe. I am the God of your father Abraham. There was no doubt that he would have known that this was his God. So he built an altar there, and he called upon Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh by name. He knew how to pronounce Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. Our sages have said we're not allowed to pronounce the name because of the third commandment. You shall not take the name of your God in vain. But it doesn't mean you can't pronounce it. It means don't use it for the wrong reasons, and don't put words in God's mouth. Isaac pitched his tent there, and his servants started to dig a well. Abimelech came to him from Gerar with Ahuzat, his counselor, and Phicol, chief of his troops. Isaac said to them, "Why have you come to me, seeing that you have been hostile to me, and you drove me away?" And he said, "We can see plainly that Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, they also knew who he was, this God of ours. We saw these Philistines saw that this God, the only God, has been with you. And we thought, let there be a sworn treaty between our two parties, between you and us. Let us make a pact with you that you will not do us any harm, just as we have not molested you, but have always dealt kindly with you and sent you away in peace. From now on, be you blessed of Yud He Vav He. And it's interesting that they're asking for a sworn treaty from Isaac because they have a sworn treaty from Abraham. He made a, so this is another example of a renewed covenant, a renewed treaty. It's the same one, it's just been renewed. So they made a feast and they ate and they drank. Early in the morning, they exchanged oaths. Isaac then bade them farewell, and they departed in peace. That same day, Isaac's servants came and told him about the well they had dug and said to him, "We found water." He named it Shiva. Therefore, the name of the city is Be'er Sheva to this day. Beersheva. Be'er means well. The Shiva means oath. It's a well of oaths. And it's exciting to me because I have friends who live in Beersheva. And just to think how old this is, it's like 4,000 years ago. So when anybody says this land is not ours, that the Palestinians lived there from the beginning, this proves, and they all know it because it's in their books as well. When Esau was 40 years old, he took as his wife Judith, daughter of Be'eri the Hittite, and Basemat, daughter of Elon the Hittite. The Hittite today, that area is Turkey, and they were a polytheistic nation, many gods. They had few redeeming features, as we would say. That's why they were a source of bitterness to Isaac and Rebekah. It's interesting that Abraham had sent a servant to go and bring a wife for Isaac, but Isaac never sent anybody to find wives for his two boys. Here Esau chose them on his own, and he certainly chose badly. And I think if we listen more to our parents when it comes to the spouse that we would choose for ourselves, we would be much happier. I know that's true in my case. When Isaac was old and his eyes were too dim to see, he called his older son Esau and said to him, "My son." And he answered, "Hineni, here I am." He said, "I'm old now. I do not know how soon I may die. Take your quiver, your gear, your quiver, your bow, go out into the open and hunt me some game. Then prepare a dish for me the way I like it. Bring it to me to eat so that I may give you," here it says my innermost blessing, but here it says the blessing of my soul, nafshi, before I die. So remember, he is a chosen one. Isaac is a chosen one of God. And here he is going to choose the next one. So several things came to my mind here. First of all, Rebecca wouldn't have told him about the prophecy that she received, because if she did, where it says the older will serve the younger, he would have known that it was Isaac who was going to take his place. I mean, Jacob who would take his place. And he was judging by his own, as we would say, fleshly desire. He loved the meat. But he thought, who would be the best person to lead a nation is one who would be a strong hunter, a warrior. He didn't stop to think that he was not a strong hunter, a warrior. He was a man of the tents, just like his son Jacob. Maybe he just didn't understand that that's really what God would want. But we see how human our ancestors were and how they made these decisions without taking into account what God would want. Why wouldn't Isaac have gone to God? He went to God to find out why Rivka wasn't conceiving. So why wouldn't he have gone for such an important thing? Now, Rebecca had been listening as Isaac spoke to his son Esau. She was very much like Sarah. She needed to know everything that was going on, like Sarah was listening to the angels who came to the messengers who came to tell Abraham that he was going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, and that next year when they come back, she would have a son. So Rebecca, she also had been listening in, and here Rebecca had been listening. So when Esau went out into the open to hunt game to bring home, Rebecca said to her son Jacob, "Listen, I heard your father speaking to your brother. Bring me some game, prepare me a dish, so that I may bless you with God's approval before I die. So now, son, listen carefully to how I instruct you." She's doing the same thing that Sarah did. Sarah took matters into her own hands. She brought Hagar, and we got Ishmael. Here, Rivka does the same thing. She goes ahead of God. If she had that prophecy in her mind and in her heart, why would she do this? Go to the flock, fetch me 2 choice kids, and I will make of them a dish for your father the way he likes it. Take it to your father to eat so that he may bless you before he dies. Jacob answered his mother, Rebekah, "But my brother Esau is a hairy man and I'm smooth-skinned. If my father touches me, it'll be like I'm tricking him, and I'll bring upon myself a curse, not a blessing." But his mother said, "Don't worry, your curse, my son, let it be upon me. Just do as I say and go fetch them for me." Later in Leviticus, we're going to learn about how important it is not to make any oaths or promises like this. Because from this moment on, we do not hear, right after this happens, we never hear about Rebecca again. She isn't mentioned. Later, she'll the only one who's mentioned, that we don't even know when she dies, but we find out that Deborah, her servant, her nursemaid, did die. We hear Deborah's name, but we don't hear about Rebecca anymore, because we have to be careful what we say. Your curse be upon me. So he got them. He brought everything to his mother, and his mother prepared the dish the way his father liked. And then Rebecca took the best clothes of her older son Esau that were there in the house. She was in charge of everything, and had her younger son Jacob put them on. And she covered his hands and the hairless part of his neck with the skins of the kids. Then she put in the hands of her son Jacob the dish and the bread that she had prepared. He went to his father and said, "Father," and he said, "Yes." And this is so strange. Why would he say this? "Which of my sons are you?" And it says here, Jacob said to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Pray, please sit up. Eat some of my game, that you may give me the blessing from your soul." And Isaac said to his son, this is probably why he said that, "How did this happen so quickly, my son?" And his son said, Esau said, "Because your God," it wasn't his God, "your God, Yud He Vav He, granted me good fortune." So Isaac said to Jacob, who said he was Esau, "Come closer so that I may feel you, my son, whether you really are my son or not." Why? So Jacob drew close to his father, who felt him and wondered, the voice is the voice of Jacob.
Just one thing, Peggy, that I find so like strange, and we just sort of gloss over it. He says, "Draw closer so that I can see if you're really, like he's already doubting. Like his own son just told him that, but something in his head, like everything's not as clean and good as we think."
Exactly.
Imagine saying to your own kids, "Let me check, like if you really are who you say you are," and like a lack of trust.
Obviously he heard him speak as soon as he came in. He knew Jacob's voice.
No, but the fact that he would talk to his sons and say, like, want to check up on them, like the lack of trust to a certain extent, you know.
Yeah, well, because he heard his voice. He didn't trust him.
Yeah, but that means he's saying, like, what are you doing? Why are you not telling me the truth? Who are you really? Like, it's a lack of.
Yeah, and Jacob never did tell him.
No.
But he didn't recognize him. He knew the voice was the voice of Jacob, but the hands were the hands of Esau. It must have been very confusing. Remember, he was blind. He couldn't see.
Right.
He had to go by feel. But he still knew there was something wrong here. I mean, we know our kids. We know when they're up to something.
Yeah.
He didn't recognize him because his hands were like those of his brother Esau. So he blessed them. And again he said, "Are you really my son Esau?" Imagine, it's like 3 times. It's like, it reminds me of God with Adam. Adam, where are you? Adam, where are you? 3 times he asked him and finally answered. And here he said, I am. You know, it's interesting how what Christians have done with this word, I am. Whenever they hear I am, they say this is God. Instead of just taking for granted, it's just I am. Are you Miriam? Yeah, I am. Doesn't mean you're God. He said,
says?
me.
Okay, go on.
Sorry?
No, I said, who says? I'm not.
That's cute. Serve me and let me eat some of my son's game, that I may give you the blessing of my soul. So he served him and he ate, and he brought him wine and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, come close, kiss me, my son. And he went up to him and kissed him, and he smelled his clothes and he blessed him, saying, ah, the smell of my son is like the smell of the fields that God has blessed. May God give you of the dew of heaven and the fat of the earth, abundance of new grain and wine. Let peoples serve you. All the nations shall bow down to you. You will be master over your brothers, and let your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be they who curse you, and blessed are they who bless you, just as God told Abraham. No sooner had Jacob left the presence of his father Isaac, just after Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, Esau comes into the room back from the hunt. He prepared the dish also and brought it to his father. And he said to his father, let my father sit up and eat of his son's game, so that you may give me the blessing of your soul. His father Isaac said to him, who are you? And he said, I'm your son Esau, your firstborn. Isaac was seized with very violent trembling. He was so upset. Who was it then, he demanded, that hunted game and brought it to me? Moreover, I ate it before you came and I blessed him, and now he must remain blessed. When Esau heard his father's word,
It fell on the floor.
Oh, okay.
Brian, please put yourself on mute, okay? When Esau heard his father's words, he burst into wild and bitter sobbing and said to his father, bless me too, father. But he answered, your brother came with deceit, with guile, and took away your blessing. Esau said, was he then named Jacob, that he might supplant me these 2 times? The first time he grabbed onto his heel. Oh no, he was called Jacob because he grabbed onto his heel, trying to supplant him then. First, he took away my birthright. See, this is where he never took it away. Esau didn't care about it. Now he's taken away my blessing. You think Esau cared about the blessing? And he added, have you not reserved a blessing for me? Isaac answered, saying to Esau, but I have made him master over you. But it's interesting because he thought that Jacob was Esau. So God will always turn it to be the way it's supposed to be. I have made him master over you. I have given him all his brothers for servants and sustained him with grain and wine. What then can I still do for you, my son? Esau said to his father, do you have only one blessing, father? Bless me too. And Esau wept aloud. He must have screamed. Because later we're going to see he wanted to kill his brother. And his father Isaac answered, saying to him, see, your abode shall enjoy the fat of the earth. In other words, he'll also be very wealthy, and the dew of heaven above. Yet by your sword you shall live, which is very true. Always fighting. Even in Europe, constant wars from the beginning. And you shall serve your brother. When you grow restive, when you grow, you can't sit still anymore, you shall break his yoke from your neck. This is a future prophecy. Now Esau harbored a grudge against Jacob because of the blessing which his father had given him. And Esau said to himself, as soon as the mourning period of my father is over, as soon as the Shiva is over, I'm going to kill my brother Jacob. Somebody must have heard, because when the words of her older son Esau was reported to Rebekah, remember they lived in tents. There were no walls to keep out. Even if you said something in a whisper, somebody would have heard. She sent for her younger son Jacob and said to him, your brother Esau is consoling himself by planning to kill you. So listen, my son, flee at once to Haran, to my brother Lavan. That's where Abraham sent the servant to find Rebekah. Well, now she's sending him back there. Stay with him a while until your brother's fury subsides, until your brother's anger against you subsides, and he forgets what you have done to him. Then I will fetch you from there. Let me not lose you both in one day. Well, she never fetched him, because she must have died shortly after. Rebekah said to Isaac, I am disgusted with my life because of these Hittite women. If Jacob marries a Hittite woman like these, from among the native women, what good will my life be? So Isaac sent for Jacob and blessed him. And he instructed him, saying, you shall not take a wife from among the Canaanite women. It's obvious he understood that God had chosen Jacob. So go to Padam Aram, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father. Take a wife from there among the daughters of Lavan, your mother's brother. May El Shaddai bless you, make you fertile and numerous, so that you become an assembly of peoples. El Shaddai comes from the word in Hebrew, shad, which means breast, a breastfeeder, a nurturer. At the beginning, this was the beginning of the formation of the people of Israel. And in the beginning, God has introduced himself as the one who is going to nourish them as a mother nurses a baby. This whole time, they would be taken care of by God in a very different way than the way he introduced himself to the people of Israel later on, when they became a nation under Moses. May you and your offspring be granted the blessing of Abraham, that you may possess the land where you are sojourning, which God assigned to Abraham. Again, that promise that this is our land. Then Isaac sent Jacob off. He went to Padam Aram, to Laban, to this Bethuel the Aramean, the brother of Rebekah, mother of Jacob and Esau. And when Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him off to Padam Aram to take a wife from there, charging him as he blessed him, you shall not take a wife from among the Canaanite women, that Jacob had obeyed his father and mother and went to Padam Aram. Esau realized that the Canaanite women displeased his father Isaac, so he went to Ishmael and took a wife. In addition to the wives he had, Mahalat, the daughter of Ishmael, son of Abraham, sister of Nebaot. So we see the beginnings here of the enemies of Israel. We have the Hittites, which is today Turkey, that has no love for Israel. The Ishmaelim, who some are sort of friends to Israel, but still we have many enemies in those lands. So we see the unfolding of the story of our people.
But he knew that the Ishmaelites were still family. You know, like he went from the Canaanites. He didn't go. He could have gone up and tried to find a wife in the area where Laban and Rebecca's family were. But he
Right.
went to the Ishmaelites, like saying, "Well, we're family. We may not talk that much, but we're family."
Right, that's very true. They were still family. We forget that.
Yeah.
They were. And the most important thing was, it's not by blood that we follow God. It's by calling. Abraham received the calling, and he left his pagan world, and he received blessings because he followed the only God. All the rest are idols, are false gods. And everybody else who follows this God among all the nations, and there are many today who follow the God, actually many who think they're following the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I don't know how many truly are, and truly leave all their gods behind, all the pagan gods behind. And it's only God is going to be able to reveal that to them. So is there anything else that popped up in your minds as I was reading? Well, it's pretty straightforward. It's a good lesson for us. And this is a prayer for all Israel. May God bless you and keep you, so that we may be a light to all the nations. May the Lord shine his face upon you and be gracious to you, so that we may shine his light out in the world to others. May God lift his countenance upon us and give us peace, and which is what we want more than anything in the world. The only solution for all the anti-Semitism, for all the fighting that's in the world today, is for our people, who are a nation that God has formed, to turn back, to give themselves over to the God who formed them, to come under his protection, to follow his commandments. And when we do, the world will live in peace. Let's pray that day comes soon. And that's one of the reasons it's so important to read the Torah, because this is the only place, this is our plumb line for what the truth is. I wish you all the best. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and I wish you a Shabbat Shalom.